afternoon, Rotarians and guests, and welcome to the Rotary Club of Toledo. If you'd like to check in on your social media platforms and let them know you're at this great meeting and that you're here to learn a little bit more about the Italian Bowl, that would be great. And just be sure to turn your ringers down following. At this time, I'd like to ask Lauren Height to come to the podium and give us a reflection and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Hi, everyone. Pause. Slow it all down. Pause from your full calendar and long task list. Take a moment or 10 to simply be, to remind yourself that this is life right here and right now. To reacquaint yourself with your pulsing heart and your capable mind that allows you to do all that you do. To remember that life is precious and fragile and should be lived in love. To remind yourself that whatever is happening or wherever you find yourself in this journey, it is all where it is supposed to be. So pause, breathe, and let gratitude guide you. Let's all be thankful for this beautiful life we get to live. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Lauren. I'd like to thank Brent Kuzno and Browning Kuzno, who are June's monthly meeting sponsor. Thank you, Brent. As we approach the new year in July, we still have a few months that are open if you're interested in being a meeting sponsor. And if so, please reach out to Jackie. Does anybody have any guests with them? And if you do, please take them to the floor mic and introduce them.
Hello, everyone. I have brought with me Scott Herman. He's the founder and executive director of Spectrum Sailing, an autism sailing camp for youth that is here in Toledo and now on the Great Lakes in 3 separate locations.
Welcome.
Good afternoon, President Cindy, fellow Rotarians. My guest today is Michael Cohn. Michael's a good friend and also the corporate IT director at Impact Employment Solutions.
Welcome. Welcome, Michael.
I have so many kind of asterisk guests today that I'm not bringing them up here, but I'm going to ask our Rotaractors that are here from our newly formed Toledo Rotaract Club to stand, and their guests/prospective members. These are a bunch of our Rotaractors, so let's welcome them to our meeting.
Welcome, everyone.
President Cindy, I have not really my guest, okay, but a guest who sat at my table, all right, Darren Wers, and I'm going to let him tell you guys about himself.
Yes, good morning, everybody. I'm Darren Wirtz. I recently moved back here from the Cincinnati area. I was in the Covington Rotary Club for a while. I'm a financial planner. I have a podcast called The Lawyer Millionaire and wrote a book called The Lawyer Millionaire, too. So glad to be with y'all.
Welcome. Are there any visiting Rotarians in the audience? Oh, all right. Allison Hammonds, can you please go to the floor mic and give us an announcement about the member awards evening?
Thank you. Does everybody know what is happening this Thursday, June 15th at 5:30 p.m.? Anybody want to raise their hand and say? Kurt. Woohoo! Who wants to come to the first annual Toledo Rotary Membership Awards? And the coolest thing is that Max Reddish and I will be your hosts. So you get to hear us. We're going to get all dressed up for you guys. We're going to give you some winners. And I think there's going to be some cocktails and appetizers too. So please come this Thursday. It's at the Shoemaker Law Office down in the basement area where they have a great space for us. So 5:30 that starts, and we are going to give some great membership awards away. So please come and hang out with us and see the first annual Toledo Rotary Membership Awards.
Thank you, Allison. We'd like to see everyone there, but if you're unable to attend, please go to the Spoke. There's still an opportunity to vote on who you would like to for each award. So that would be really nice if you could do that. At this time, we're going to do a new member introduction. So if Jim Ravis and Dr. Durant could meet us up here.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I'm gonna have to put my infinite towel out just in case I get a little long-winded during this introduction. But again, I want to say, President Binkley, fellow Rotarians, it is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Jim Ravis. He is the president and CEO of the Boys and Girls Club of Toledo. By a show of hands, how many individuals were a member during their youth of the Boys and Girls Club? Any hands up here? Okay. All right. There we go right here. We got a big kid. We could get signed up for a membership right here. Again, in regard to the Boys and Girls Club, have touched many lives, including myself, which I'm proud board member currently. But Mr. Ravis is born in Toledo. He is a graduate of the University of Toledo. He currently serves on the board of trustees for the #1 magnet school high school in Toledo, Toledo Early College. He is a supporter of the Knight of Columbus and his church, St. John the 23rd. Jim is not the first member of his family to join Rotary. Great-grandfather, grandfather, uncle, cousins were all currently and were serving as Rotarians and leaving a legacy for the Ravis family. He believed that Rotary provides one of the most basic human needs, the need for friendship and fellowship. He and his wife, Elizabeth, currently lives in Perrysburg, where their 3 children reside with them. Look forward to networking with Rotarians. He is learning more about their professional interests, and he is interested in sharing those of the Boys and Girls Club. President Binkley and fellow Rotarians, please give a warm Rotary welcome to Mr. Jim Ravis.
No, so thank you very much, Dr. Durant. When he offered the opportunity to sponsor me, I was very flattered and humbled with that offer. And I can say that, as Dr. Durant mentioned, just the legacy of having family, being a part of the Rotary in Toledo and continuing with the Rotary tradition in Northwest Ohio. Very much looking forward to serving with each of you and being a part of this great organization. So, thank you very much.
Welcome, Jim. We hope to see you getting really active coming up here. Okay. All right, I think most of you are aware of what a Paul Harris Award is, and typically it's given or earned by donating at least $1,000 over a period of time to the Rotary International Fund. But we as a club also have an opportunity to give out Paul Harris Awards using some points to people or members of our club that go above and beyond and have had a huge impact on our membership and our club. And so today I'd like to give a Paul Harris Award to someone who's had a huge impact on our club, at least in the time that I've been a member. He has helped us coordinate the AV for 3 moves during the last many years, from the Park Inn to the library, or to the Toledo Club, from the Toledo Club to the library, and from the library here. And our meetings here would never have gotten off the ground without the help of him, not only with the AV, but also with our beautiful Rotary letters here, just going above and beyond. And not only with that, he's always, for lack of a better word, has a lot of initiative in inserting himself in a lot of activities at the board level and at the foundation. He's currently our foundation chair and is just an all-around good guy who really goes above and beyond and truly has shown service, or the role of service above self with our club. So at this time, I'd like to ask Kevin Mullen to come up to the podium to receive a Paul Harris.
How the hell do you surprise a member of the executive committee? She started, and I was like, oh, I know who this is for. And then I was like, oh, crap. No, I love this club. I love what we do. I love the impact we're able to have on our community, on our world. It's why every time Rotary asks a question, I respond with yes. And why every time I ask a question, I expect all of you to answer with yes as well. So good luck with that. Thank you.
All right. Well, this Rotary year is almost a wrap. So if all of you could keep on the lookout for the committee sign up, and you have a QR code up here in case you haven't had a chance to actually sign up for any committees. If you could take a picture of that and make sure that you do that, because as most of you know, that's where all the work is done for our clubs. Whether we are doing service projects or granting grants or having fun and socializing, that's where all the activity happens. So please be sure to sign up for a committee. Jackie will be clearing out all of the ones for this last year, so they're starting with a clean slate. So if you think you're signed up for the committees that you were signed up for this year, you're not going to be. So please take a look at it and do that as quickly as you can. I'd also like to take a moment to say thank you to all of our committee chairs, vice chairs, or co-chairs. And if any of them are in the room, I would like for them to stand up so that we can acknowledge all their good efforts over the last year. I'll tell a little bit more at our final meeting, but we've accomplished a lot of good deeds this year, whether it be, again, doing some good for the community, funding the 200 and some odd thousand grants to the community, and just getting our membership more engaged. So if there's any chairs in the room, please stand. I just want to see some. Thank you all. And then some of you may have read in the Spoke that we, as club leadership, have decided to postpone the vote for our transformational projects. We had a good meeting last week, and the panelists did a great job informing all of the members of what the projects were and what we had intended to go forward. And with that, it sparked a lot of good conversation, and good questions. And with those questions, there's a couple that we couldn't answer. So we're going to take a minute to rehash a little bit of the information that we have, make sure that it's all 100% accurate, and provide the actual data and numbers to go along with that, so you have more opportunity to have a good educated vote. So keep your eyes peeled. We'll be doing that as soon as we can within the next few weeks. And now, the reason we're all here today, I'd like to ask Joe Sharp to come up to the podium and introduce our speaker, Nick Eyde.
Good afternoon. It's my pleasure to introduce Nick Eyde with Guide Development. Approximately 1 year ago this week, I believe, he spoke at this meeting about his downtown development of the Tower on the Maumee and several other projects he has in the works. Today, he will be presenting about a special event coming to our great city, the Italian Bowl, which is the Italian Super Bowl. And it'll be played for the first time in the U.S. in Toledo, Ohio on July 1st. The championship final will take place at the Glass Bowl Stadium at the University of Toledo. It will host the two best first divisional teams, the Italian Premier League of American Football, and the match will be broadcast live on cable TV in the United States and visible in Italy in prime time. The selection of Toledo, Ohio as a site of the championship game is historically significant, as Ohio is the birthplace of American football. It is thanks to the sister city relationship between Friera and Toledo, which was established in 2021, that the finals will be hosted here in Toledo. Nick previously played American football in Europe and was a quarterback for one of the teams. Parts of Nick's story served as an inspiration for John Grisham's book, Playing for Pizza. Please welcome Nick.
Good afternoon, Rotarians. Thank you for having me. Joe, a quick question. Did you want to show the clip now? Did you want? So I know he wanted to
An
have this.
international event is coming to Toledo, the 42nd Italian Bowl on Saturday, July 1st at the University of Toledo Glass Bowl. Tickets start at just $15 with family 4-packs also available. The passport to the Taste of Italy Restaurant Week, June 18th through the 24th, and the Mayor's Cup, June 25th, lead up to the big game. Enjoy tailgate parties and the Toledo Night Market. Local foods, wine, and beer, music, and downtown Toledo fireworks will cap off the day. For more information, visit ItalianBowlUSA.com.
So again, thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm very excited. That captures the essence of the event, but excited to be here, excited to be talking about this event. And the first thing I always have to say is this is American football and not soccer. And I don't know how many times a lot of you maybe have answered that question over the past year, but it's one that obviously comes up a lot. And no, this is American football, and it is their championship game. And so I always get asked the question of, how did we get this? How did it end up here? And what's the history? What's the relationship to not only Ohio, but even more specifically Toledo? And the more we kind of pulled the onion back and learned more about the history of American football in Europe, in Italy, and then Toledo's relationship to a lot of events that were a part of bringing American football to Europe, the more we just said, this makes a lot of sense. So, and as I was sitting over there, I kind of had a memory of what it takes to kind of bring an event like this and where it starts. And for me, it started really with just, it's a big dream of, okay, this is the 42nd edition of the Italian Bowl, to play it outside of Italy. How do you make that happen? And it reminded me of, so I played my first season. I played 7 total seasons in Europe. I played 2 in Austria and 5 in Italy. My very first season was in Austria. And I remember, you know, and as American football over there, you have 2 or 3 Americans on the team and the rest are Europeans, but you're essentially, you negotiate with the team, your contract, the, you know, responsibilities, the duties, all that sort of stuff. So with the Austrian team, my very first year, it was, I mean, everything was business. The Austrians are very, you know, this is how much you're going to make. This is how many, you know, youth practices you're going to coach. This is your schedule. This is what you're going to eat, et cetera, et cetera. And everything was laid out. And as a 21-year-old American that just finished college, you know, all you're thinking is, I want to keep playing football. I don't know, you know, a lot about the culture side of things. But the next year, I was contacted by a team in Rome. And that team, couldn't have been different. The first 5 emails, the first one said, you know, we saw your film from last year. We'd like you to be our quarterback for this team in Rome. And I said, oh, okay, great. And that was it. And then the rest of the emails from that point on were, Rome is this fantastic, magical, beautiful place. It'll be the most enchanting summer of your life. It is this, I mean, and it was email after email with this fantastic, dreamy, beautiful language about, you know, I was 22 at that point, about wine, about food, and I'm thinking, am I going to play football or what's happening here? But it was all this dreamy atmosphere, and it made me think that, you know, for what we're doing and bringing this event here for the first time in 42 years, which started much the same way. And the history of this event is so ingrained to Ohio and to Toledo. The more we learned, it was just kind of interesting. The first game, I don't know, you know, if any of you know this story, and if I'm repeating to some of you that know it, I still think you'll find it interesting. But the first game in Europe of any significance was played on January 1st, 1945 in Florence in the main soccer stadium. And it was played between a team from the Army and the team from the Air Force. And January 1st, you know, not so much now in the post-BCS days, but January 1st back in those days, that was bowl games. You know, you had a lot of meaning to these bowl games playing against these different colleges. Well, during war times, a lot of those players or players that were a part of these things, they were that soldiers. And so it was very important for the Army and the Air Force to keep that feeling alive. And so they called it the Spaghetti Bowl, played it on January 1st, 1945 in the stadium in Florence. And they had to circle planes over the stadium because the battlefront, the war front, was 30 kilometers away from the stadium. And it was still very much, very, very dangerous. And a lot of the folks that were at that game, of the 20-some thousand servicemen and women, did not make it back. But it was important for them to keep that atmosphere and that feeling alive. And then for me, and for Ohio being the birthplace of American football, and Canton being the home of the Hall of Fame, there's another tie-in for us here, in that one of the biggest and one of the most important pieces of the liberation of Europe and the Allied forces winning the war was the Jeep. And the Jeep kind of served as that medium through which these soldiers brought American football, were a part of these different things, and had that tie back in. And of course, everybody knows every Jeep in the world is made here in Toledo. And so we didn't know some of these things as we were starting the conversation with the Federation and kind of putting this deal together to bring the game here. But it just, every time we looked more into it, we found more of these reasons why not only Ohio, but Toledo made sense, to host this game here. And so that's kind of how we started it. We kept in touch with the Federation. After I finished playing, I would go back and forth and do color commentary. And through that, and there's a tie-in for Rotary as well, kind of through that, I got to know a guy named Raffaello Pellegrini, who's the CEO of a company called Nature House, and was the director of the Italian Bowl. And so he'd bring me over, and I spoke Italian at that point, and I would do color commentary for the Italian Bowl. Well, Raffaello is a big part of the city of Ferrara. He's also a very important member of the Rotary Club in Ferrara. And so as conversations moved along on the Sister City part, as Joe mentioned, he said he would come over, and we started with Sister City. He came to visit Toledo, and he said, what a great city you have here. He loved touring the university. He loved playing golf at Inverness because his son's a big golfer and that sort of thing. And he came out of one of the meetings and he said, what if we did a destination Italian Bowl? I've been director for this many years, and what if we tried to bring the game here? And I said, I've never thought of that. It sounds like a great idea. It'd be great for the city. It'd be great for football. It'd be great for all these different reasons. And then he said, as we were getting ready to make the announcement, I need to meet with somebody at Rotary because I'm a Rotarian. I'm a big part of this, and I'd like to, involve that in some of the meetings that he's had. So I know you and Raffaello connected, and that was a big part of him pushing and making some of the things happen to bring the game here. So from that point on, as we kind of moved forward, it just turned, one thing led to another, and we started to find more and more people wanting to get involved in the game and being a part of it. The university jumped on board. The stadium, as many of you know, is really, it's not well known. And so a lot of the Italians, when they come here and they see the stadium and they see how beautiful the campus is, they're like, wow, we've never heard of the University of Toledo. How do we not know about this campus, this beautiful university? And so I think, as we get closer and as these Italians start making their way here and we start hosting them, our goal is to use this not only as furthering the Sister City relationship, but to continue to have more Italians, more international visitors come to Toledo, recognize it not only on the business side, on the sports side, and all these different things. So I know you wanted also to have the Times Square. Do you want to put that up now too? So we were fortunate enough to kind of get this up in Times Square last week, and this has received kind of a lot of pretty good feedback. So that is kind of a goal, is get Toledo further and further out there. So, well, that's kind of where I have on the where I was prepared to talk about the event. What kind of questions can I answer about the event and about the game coming here? Any questions? All right, well.
Nick, thanks so much for being here and bringing this great event. Where are the players going to stay? They're going to stay here in Toledo. How long are they going to be here, and what are you going to do with them? What are you going to show them?
The players come in on Tuesday night. They'll be staying on campus, and so they'll be staying in the dorms at the University of Toledo, having their meals there. We're going to take them on a guided tour of the Hall of Fame on Wednesday. the day after they arrive. Thursday, they have practices. Friday, they have practices as well. They'll be going to a youth football camp run by Fourth and Goal Academy on that Friday, and then they play the game on Saturday.
Awesome, thanks.
Hi, Nick. I think you're being a little bit too modest in what you're bringing to Toledo, because I saw on the flyer you didn't just bring the Italian Bowl, you brought commerce to our city too. I think the night market is on the schedule. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so after the game, and thanks, Monique, you're being too kind, but there are so many people that were a part of bringing this event to Toledo that, there's a lot of credit to go around to everybody involved. But after the game, the Toledo Night Market, how many people have been to the Toledo Night Market? Know what it is. So we love the night market. It's almost what I would call an Italian mercatino, where you have 100 vendors selling artisan goods, and that will be taking place right outside the stadium in what's called the Flatlands. So there'll be a band and food trucks and all that sort of stuff outside.
I actually ran into a vendor that said, I'm going to be participating in the Italian Bowl, and it's like a small business, and he's just getting started. So I thought that was really exciting, so I just wanted you to know that.
Yeah, and thank you for mentioning that. Thanks.
Love what you're doing. My question is, are there going to be any volunteer opportunities for Rotarians or anybody who wants to get involved?
Yeah, great question, Tony. And yes, there are plenty of volunteer opportunities. And best way to do that would be, I will get Pat Nowak's contact information, who's handling all the volunteer opportunities available for the event. And that's a great point. The more and more volunteers we can have for the event, the better.
I just want to say something on the lighter side. Make sure you have enough Italian beer for them.
Which Italian beers do you like?
Yeah, just make sure,
Which ones are your favorite? Which Italian beers? So there's Peroni, there's Moretti.
And we can serve all of those on ladder 419, so just gonna put that out there.
Oh, that's a great point.
No, I want to make a comment, and I've got a question to kind of follow that, but I think it's impressive. I mean, people, I see your passion for Toledo, and you're not a Toledoan. And when we talk about, Italian football, we see your passion for these communities where you played, and you spent just a few years there. So a credit to you for when you move somewhere, kind of going all in and getting to know the people and the culture, and making yourself feel at home, which makes us feel like you're one of us as well. So first of all, I appreciate that, so thank you. And for bringing this, you could have taken this anywhere in the world, and you brought it here. So thank you for that. Can you talk about kind of the excitement that the players and the fans of Italian football have to be able to play this game here?
Yeah, so that question kind of ties into the history of our American football leagues too. It's a good question, because a lot of these players, the Americans are paid, and the Americans, have a pretty good salary when they're there, and they have all their expenses paid. But a lot of the Italian players, they have other jobs. So when I played there, I had teammates who were pilots, I had a back surgeon who was a defensive lineman. I had, guys that were, common laborers that, just loved to be a part of this game. So it was everybody. It was a cross section of, and this is what sports does. Sports brings everybody together from different cultures, different, walks of life. And nowhere is it more present in Italy, even more so than when I played in Austria and other places, where these guys all have other jobs. They work really hard, and obviously they don't have a ton of time in their schedule, but they make time to practice at night, 8 to 10 at night, 9 to 11 at night, and they play with such a level of passion. And it's not all that dissimilar to, guys like Johnny Unitas or Otto Graham or some of these names of American football, when our league began here. I mean, these guys did not make a ton of money at all, and a lot of them had to work in the off season or had to work during the season. And then, when they finished their career, it wasn't like the NFL today, where, there were, post-playing, amounts that you could, pensions and things like that, where they just didn't have that. And this is very much the same, which brings back kind of, I think, a level of appreciation for sports and what sports brings to people. But that was a good question.
Can you give us an overview of the Italian league, what number of teams, what kind of season they play, and maybe what size stadiums they play in? Just curious.
Yeah, so you'll get anywhere from tiny, 400 or 500, 600 spectator stadiums, all the way up to, 20 or 30,000 spectator stadiums in Milan. And there are 9 teams in the first division, The top 6 make the playoffs. They do relegation where the bottom teams get pushed down and the top teams from the second division go up. So right now, we just finished the wild card weekend where the top 2 teams in the playoffs got a bye, and the lower 4 teams just had their wild card weekend. And so the Varese Scorpions and the Ancona Dolphins made it through the wild card round, and both of those 2 teams will play against Florence and Parma to see who ends up making it to the Italian Bowl and coming to Toledo.
What does it mean to you since you played there and then they're going to come here, kind of like the switch, and how did your story start?
Yeah, so for me, to give these guys, and that gets back to Kevin's question a little bit too, these guys dream of this. To them, it's their American dream to be able to have the opportunity to play in an American stadium, to play on an American campus. I mean, some of these guys may be fortunate enough to end up playing in college. There are a couple guys from the Italian League. One guy who grew up in Bolzano, Italy, and now is playing for the Detroit Lions, was just signed by the Detroit Lions 2 weeks ago. I mean, this is their dream. He's even taking time out of his schedule, practicing with the Lions and so forth, to make a trip to the game. He's bringing his father in from Bolzano, Italy, to be a part of this game. So for me to see that and to see these guys have an opportunity to have their dream of playing in a stadium like this is pretty special. And it's really, I mean, to see, we've been there from the beginning of the season. We were able to get some footage of them and meet with these teams. To see their enthusiasm at the beginning to now has been special.
I told Nick earlier last week that my husband and I are probably the only Varese fans in the whole city of Toledo because John and I used to work there. So we're excited to have Varese maybe make it into that championship game. As we watch the game, Nick, are there any rule changes between the Italian League and what we're used to watching so that we understand what we're kind of seeing or maybe don't understand?
So it's NCAA rules, so it's 1 foot in bounds on catches and everything kind of NCAA related, except for this idea of relegation, where if you finish in the bottom half of the league, you get pushed down, and you finish in the top of the league, you get pushed up.
Thank you, Nick, for bringing this to Toledo in Northwest Ohio. I had the opportunity last week to be with Mayor Wade. I know he's not here today. He's afraid of me. But can you expand on the Mayor's Cup? And I got a question.
All right, so that's right. Mayor Pietro, should I call you Mayor Pietro? There you go. That's the Italian pronunciation. We'll be playing in the Mayor's Cup. It's a skills competition on the 25th of June. Central Catholic High School starts at noon, and I think we have somewhere between 15 and 20 mayors that are going to be competing in punt, pass, and kick skills competition. Okay, and these are really like it's not just classic punt, pass, and kick. I mean, it's accuracy related and things like that. But the top 3 will be recognized at the halftime of the Italian Bowl, and I hope you're in that top 3.
Myself and the mayor of Findlay, we've been working out together. I know she's had a personal trainer.
You look fit there.
But seriously, maybe for the Rotary Club members that live in different communities, you ought to reach out to your mayor. They're busy, and they probably got that email from Pat Nowak, but maybe remind them. And then secondly, the mayor did make an impromptu bet with me. He said that he will not be in last place, that I might be in last place. So we'll see. So come out to Central Catholic High School.
I think he said he was going to beat you, right?
Yeah, he said that.
So it's important for us to have a full stadium, and I'd be interested to know what your plans are for that. In the last half of your discussion at this point, I'd like you to do an Italian. I want to hear this Italian commercial, okay?
Partiamo con italiano, ok? Per gli spettatori, noi ovviamente vogliamo un stadio pieno zeppo, diciamo, di persone, per 2 motivi. Primo, di fare un bel benvenuto per tutti gli italiani e tutti che vengono dall'esterno qui, primo, e secondo di creare un'atmosfera gigante che si mette Toledo al top. Okay, so I said there are 2 reasons why we really want to fill the stadium. One, to really create a welcoming atmosphere for the Italians who are coming, and the second part of it is just to really put Italian or Toledo at the top of the list so that people can see, really have Toledo really show well for that. Now, Bob probably understood a lot of that because he speaks Italian, right?
Molto molto poco. But Nick, on the other hand, speaks Italian at home, so that he wasn't just faking for you today, Chuck. He does
As far
it
as you know.
all the time. And Tim, you should talk to the mayor of Ferrara when he comes over here, because not only do they have an amphitheater, but they have a huge concerts and stadium. In fact, they have Springsteen coming to Ferrara.
He was just there. He was there in May.
Just there, okay,
Yeah.
right, earlier this year. But Nick, this is a great event, and as you said, a couple other things besides the football game here too. Are you bringing the opera singer over as well?
So we had initially, she just got cast in a movie. Miriam Battistelli was coming to sing. We have a little surprise plan for that part of things, but yeah, so there will be an opera singer coming to be a part of the event during the week, and then also singing the national anthems and something at halftime.
Yeah.
In addition to that, I think maybe a lot of you know too, how many of you know John Grisham, the writer, and have read some of his books? Has anybody here read Playing for Pizza? One, two, okay, so one thing that might be fun for those of you intending to go to the game, John Grisham wrote a book about the Italian Football League called Playing for Pizza. Joe mentioned it. He was a part of a book panel on Saturday at the Toledo Public Library. He was joined virtually, but told lots of fun stories about how he came to write this book about the American Football League and how he wrote about the Italian Bowl and all this sort of stuff. So that would be a book I would recommend reading before these guys come as well, and he's planning on being here in person at the game.
And also, Nick's being a little humble because in the book itself, what it talks about the quarterback who threw the Hail Mary pass, that's Nick.
Long time ago.
Thanks, Nick. My question is this game going to be broadcast and telecast in Italy?
Yes, so they have, the Federation of American Football has a relationship with two companies, one called 11 Sports, which is a subsidiary of DAZN, so it'll be available on both of those platforms.
So are you going to do the Italian broadcast?
I'm not. I'm going to do the English part of it with BCSN, because I do the color for that, but they'll have some really good Italian commentators doing that.
Hi, thank you so much for all the information you've provided. It's been very insightful. With Toledo, with this being the first time that the game is being played in the U.S., if this goes well, will Toledo be on a rotation, or will the Super Bowl come more often to the U.S.?
I would like to say I hope so. It really depends on how well it all goes. I think there's something there with being able to bring these players here, show them the Hall of Fame, kind of be here in the birthplace of American football. I think the players have been really excited about it, whether it's on a rotational basis. It's a good question. There was some heartburn. I mean, there were a lot of hurdles that came up along the way as we were working to get this done. One was COVID. And so one of the other hurdles was, the Italians, I mean, it's not a huge sport in Europe yet. I mean, it's growing, but there is a pretty loyal, smaller fan base. And they had a lot of questions of, hey, this is our Italian Bowl. Why are we taking it there? And there was some heartburn about that. And I would say all of that, or the majority of that, has gone away because of all the exposure that league is now getting, and more of these stories about some of the guys that are making it to college and the NFL. So my hope is that, yes, maybe not every year, maybe every few years. And I would just love to keep it coming here because it makes sense on so many levels.
Yeah, and it seems like professional soccer is becoming more present here as well. So I wonder if there will sort of be that, cross-continental, back and forth with the competition.
And you can kind of see that already because every year their viewership levels for NFL and also some of these other, the other leagues, it's growing. American football is growing in Europe. And so just like soccer here now with Messi playing in Miami is growing, American football is growing there. And so, sports content, I think everybody is seeing that. People want more sports, more live content and things like that.
Well, thank you so much for being a part of it. Excited to see it. Thank you.
Thanks.
So I feel I should know the answer to the question I'm about to ask you, but so speaking of volunteers, I'm going to take my boat that I keep on the river and give a tour to some guys that are coming over from Ferrara, and that's Dario
Cervelati, maybe, yeah.
And another fellow named Nikolai.
Okay.
And is there? And he's Dario evidently coming over. He's going to paint the room at the St. Jude's Hospital house. Is there any connection between, or is it just a complete coincidence that we're doing?
There's no such thing as a coincidence, I like to say, which is a lot of the different things that have happened. But again, it goes back to the name I mentioned before, Raffaello Pellegrini, and this sister city relationship. Out of that, I believe Joe and Jim from Thread on one of the trips related to the sister city relationship, and through Raffaello met Dario, and they started a really exciting conversation for what his product could bring to the region. And I don't know enough about his product, but I know it's very interesting and very exciting, some of the things that he's able to do with paint that we are currently not doing in the United States.
Yeah, it's evidently a very well-known paint company in Ferrara anyway, yeah.
Yes, but no, not a coincidence.
Well, if you need any of your ball players want to ride on the river, let me know. I'll give them a tour.
Okay, we'll have to see what their coaches say. But thank you.
You totally cut in front of me. It's okay. Just kidding. Not really, but I'm kidding. I think this is an awesome opportunity for our city, along with everybody else. But my question is about the young audience. I have an 11-year-old. He's played flag football for several years, and there's a huge community. I don't know if you know about the Drew Brees League, the FNA in Toledo. So it's grown astronomically, and so there's a lot of obviously temperature for younger people to be involved. So how are you reaching that community? It's summertime, so school's out, so there's not a lot of engagement that way. I just wanted, that's another way obviously to help fill the bowl. So
that brings up a good point of that Drew Brees network here in Toledo is really big, and for us to be able to tap into that would be really good. We are doing a youth football camp, I may have mentioned that, where we had a sign up and it filled up in about an hour for 300 kids to be able to just sign up and be a part of this football camp on Friday before the game, and then get them excited about the game on Saturday. And there were a couple kids from Europe. One kid, his family moved their vacation they were coming from Bologna, moved their vacation from Niagara Falls to Toledo so that they could, one, go to the youth camp, and then two, go to the game. Initially, it was filling up pretty quickly. We didn't know if there was going to be a spot for him, but he got a spot. And the director of that football camp is Mike Robinson from Fourth and Goal Foundation, and it's great. He kind of picked it up and ran with it, got the young kids' contact, and organized a Zoom call with him to get him ready for that youth camp. But you're right. I mean, this would be, it's 4th of July weekend, so maybe a little bit harder to get folks here. But there's such a big flag football community here that it would be great to get even more of those folks involved. And flag football is really big in Italy. I mean, it was big when I played there. They're very good. The Italian national team actually almost beat the American national team in flag football this past summer at the World Championships. But
great presentation. I think this is great for our city. I have a question. Does this have any impact on our airport at all in terms of people coming into our airport?
It doesn't. We're looking at some ways to get a chartered flight for the teams to get into Toledo, and we just we couldn't get it done through a couple of the Italian carriers. I think that's my.
No, you're
okay. No, any other questions? Thank you guys for having me. Show of hands, who's coming to the game? More hands. But no, thank you. Thanks again for having me.
Thank you, Nick, not only for joining us today, but for all of your ideas and time and effort that you've put in over the last several years to make this happen. and we'll be making a donation in your name to the Polio Plus Fund for this honor. Thank you so much. There'll be no meeting next week on June 19th in honor of Juneteenth. We'll be back here on Monday, June 26th, when we'll be joined by my friend Patrick the Magician. It's my last full meeting, and I thought I'd lighten it up a little bit. So Patrick is an international renowned magician. I know some of you know him and have seen him perform, and he's quite entertaining. Be prepared to maybe have to come up on stage. We're going to see who's in the audience that day and pick a couple of you out. Don't forget the member awards this Thursday. Thank you to all our guests that joined us today and our Rotary actors. Welcome, Jim. And we have one meeting today, right after the meeting, the program committee meeting will meet in Summit B, and there was a change. A membership committee will be meeting via Zoom at 2 o'clock. With that, we are adjourned. Everybody have a great couple weeks.